There's 5 elements that I've got to have in this painting, and I'm going to tell you what they are. So on this painting, I'm going to talk to you about what elements are needed in a painting to make it a good one. And these are the things I look at when I'm doing master studies, to see how they've incorporated these things and try and incorporate them in my own work. So I'll go through them throughout the video. I'm afraid you'll have to watch the whole lot. So the first one is composition. Have I got a nice composition here that got the 2 buildings either side, so that kind of gives us a H composition. But I shall try and make elements to lead us to this area. So this is a full sheet of paper. This is 30 inches by 22 inches. So it's quite a big piece of paper. So I'm going for a warmer scene to what was there, that on the day it was sort of midday, so it was a very blue sky, so everything was not the best conditions for creating the other thing I need to look about, harmony. Oops, that's not a good thing to happen. It's because I've got my board at probably too an extreme of an angle, but that's because of the camera. I need you to be able to see what I'm doing. So it's fine. In actual fact, it may well be good, because that's going to be the reflection there. So fill in the paper with warmth. That was a bit of cadmium red, a bit of yellow ochre, a bit of Hansa yellow. There's the warmth of these buildings. I could have done with leaving a little bit more white paper there, but done. What's done is done. Just go back over the top there before it dries. It'll be so quick. So you do need to use a big brush if you're doing a big painting like this. No 2 ways about it. Got to kind of have a plan in your head to how you're going to paint it. Big lump of paint on that brush there. This is £140 Saunders and Waterford. It's a good thickness of paper. You can get thicker. Let's have a go at putting in some ripples. The paper's very wet at the moment. Right. Big ripples in the foreground. So the paper's very wet, so that will kind of hopefully disappear to not a lot. I'll leave it at that. Shall we go for a few clouds in the sky? It'll perhaps, maybe, give it a bit more atmosphere. Floaty clouds off in the distance there. A little bit smaller with these ones off in the distance. The connection, that's another thing I always look for in my paintings. Ways of connecting all this up. Colour harmony as well. Let's get some warmth on those clouds as well. Sun's gone down, so under the underside of these clouds, it's being warmed up. That's going to fit in with the rest of the painting. Okay, need harmony. The paper's still quite wet, so I can mess about with it for probably a little while. But as soon as it starts to dry, then that's the time to stop. Give it a spray. I'll just tilt my board up slightly while I'm waiting for that to dry. So the first wash is dry, and I've got connection. The sky connects to the buildings, and the buildings connect to the water. So we've got a nice bit of connection already. And edges, that's what we need to be concerned about. There's no hard edges there at all, which gives the illusion that the sky is a long way away, and the water is a soft surface here. Now I'm just mixing a color on the palette that I think may or may not be a good color for what I'm trying to do. Who knows? Just got to try something. So this is an Escoda Perla size 20, big brush. It's first outing. Don't ask me what color I've just mixed here, because I've got no idea. It's just a warm brown. So try not to get in the way of the camera. Easier said than done. So there's a boat here. It's always tricky to try and paint and not get in the way. But it does kind of force me to paint loose, because it's not easy. It makes me do all these weird abstract marks, because this is very odd. This paintbrush being so thick feels very strange. Try and leave plenty of sparkle behind, and this bead, because I've got to try and paint all of this as one shape. It's got to be done that way. I will probably resort to a slightly smaller brush as well at some point. But going for atmosphere, so I shall treat this as a flat shape. And try and just go for creating an atmospheric scene here. So that needs sorting out. It's a little bit too where it is. It's better. That's got it. So connection, it's connected to there. Got to make sure I reload that brush up. That I want it to be. Have that as a bit of a shadow. Just try and I think I'm going to need to spray a bit of water on that. Keep it wet. Give myself a bit more time. Too much though, we don't want it to run down again. Just go around that boat. And And here, just let that break into there and let that run down. I'll fill my bead of water up. Do the same there. And give it a spray. Gotta be always thinking about what you're doing. We need to cool that down a little bit. Let's throw a bit of blue on there, mix on the paper. And a nice combination of cool and warm. See what it does. I need to take care of the shape of that boat. But I probably want that boat to kind of blend in to the that shape. Some pyrrole orange here. I wanted to try that for the building, so there we go with that. Got warmth down there. Worked okay. But, maybe get it to just run down the paper and mix on there. The boat. It's not a painting about this boat, so I don't need to be really detailed with it. So let's just suggest it's there. Now that's another skill we need to learn, what to include, how to go about executing it. But, let's just keep it in harmony with the scene. Does it look like a boat? Not really, but what else is going to be in the water? It's fine. Load that bead up. We'll use that to paint the reflections when the time comes. So, another little spray. The verticals there, that's your boats on the other side of the harbour. This looks good. Some verticals. We've got the vertical there on the top of the castle. And I'll wait for it to dry before I put any detail in there, if I do put any detail. So it kind of looks maybe that have that orange cross here in the distance. That's the distant land mass being lit up. Maybe a combination of that and the blue. Maybe there's another boat or something there. Oh, just mop that up. Maybe I need to paint those reflections now. To do it in 2 hits, I think. Not the best way to do it, but I might have to do it. I mix plenty of reflection colour. So using this big Skoda brush still. Again, adding connection. Just put in as many as you think it needs. You know, there is no formula to what's the correct amount. Maybe make it a little bit more solid here. So it's probably dry enough to put these dark edges in. Now, I haven't done huge amounts of big paintings like this, so I am kind of figuring out, you know, how to paint them. Maybe I need to do this area first, get this finished, and then come over this side, but I've got to make sure that, you know, it matches. I don't need huge amounts of detail. Let me go a little bit darker in there. Worked okay. We've got some windows, or they're probably not called windows. That's where they shoot the arrows out, isn't it? Maybe a dark along there. Give it a spray. Maybe go darker with that boat base. Right, over to the other side. Well, we've got this little boat here. Might as well paint that in. While this is wet, so we can connect that up. Basically, continue what I did that side, but on this side now. So we've got colour harmony, I suppose. We've got a lot of blues in here and orange, so that's going to be my theme. You know, there are some other colours in here as well, but as long as I've got the sort of the dominant colour, I have a bit of light here. I've painted this scene a few times, and it always looks good with just a bit of warmth on here, I think. But still just damp enough that I can connect that up. I quite like enjoying this brush. It is brand new, so the point, it's got a nice fine point on it. Verticals there. Hang on that one as well. This is quite a complex area over here, but I shall just treat it simply. Like that pyrrole orange. That could be a new colour that I regularly use because it's great for portraying that golden hour. And it's more transparent than the sort of cadmium orange. That's a Rembrandt watercolour, that is. I do like their tubed watercolours. They have the ability to stay wet. Again, cerulean blue, that is. I'm just cooling this area off. Add in connection. Paint something in there while it's still wet. Take care of that edge. So I've got a reference picture here, but you know how close I'm following it is another thing. That there's a lot of houses here and chimney pots and so on. But do I need to paint them all? No. Do I just need to create an impression? No, and that's our job as artists, to eliminate and just paint what is necessary. And that's probably the tricky part, knowing what to put in and what not to put in. A combination of warm colours and cool colours. There's a bit of red there, that's quite nice. There's shops and so on along the front here. But I've painted this scene a few times without actually ever coming to this scene, just using sort of stock photos. But I did go there the other day, and it certainly helps to understand the scene. Again, keep spraying it, keep it wet, because it all has to be painted wet into wet. Otherwise, you'll just not end up with a scene that has connection and more of that warmth on the top of those rooftops, and little bits in there. Add connection. Spray. And we've got 200 boats to paint. That's going to be tricky. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4. It wasn't that difficult to paint all these boats after all. Some cheating. To probably let that dry before I put any detail in there. So back to my big brush, and I've still got some of that reflection colour. So we've got reflection there. And there. Aerial, or aerial flagpole. One there. Break that down, let it flow down the paper. Mess about with it. It's tempting to fiddle. So few darks in there. Again, that's all adding connection. We're going to have boats with these masts. There's more there. Going off in all sorts of directions. A little bit of detail. We will need to let it dry at some point. But the more you can do while the paper's wet like this, the better it's going to look. So going back to these essential elements for a loose, spontaneous looking painting. We've got composition. So the H is working quite well. We're kind of looking through here. We've got harmony. The scene, the colours are harmonious. Contrast. We've got some darks against light. Connection. The whole painting is connected. Now all of this stuff wet into wet flowing through. Edges. We've got hard edges. We've got soft edges, and it all makes for a a pleasing watercolor. Let's just mop up some of these puddles before they become an issue. And you've got to kind of have a bit of a plan in your head, try and see the painting in your mind's eye. It always helps. And don't panic. When I had that big bit of water run down there, I didn't panic. I knew it could be sorted out. So we've got again these dark areas, but if you put them in wet into wet, a bit there, you're going to get softness, and that will again make them look like they're a long way away. It's just a few windows. Don't need many. Just a suggestion, and maybe suggestion of those shop fronts off in the distance there, and the boats that are off far away. I can just suggest some windows. There's some looks like sort of yacht type boats off in the distance. Along the base there while it's wet. This is thick paint. A little bit too straight, that is. It's at the stage we've got to be careful not to fiddle. I think that'd be better just to mess that up a little bit. While it's wet like this, you've got that opportunity to do all this stuff. Just putting these little suggestion of detail or whatever, but got to be careful not to overdo it. I think it'd be a good idea to let that dry. Again, we're back to dry paper, so now I can get some hard edges in. If I want to get some little bits of detail in, which might be quite nice just in places, but not too much. It's knowing how much to put in is what is tricky. So we need some detail. Window. maybe a few aerials and chimney pots there. Obviously, in the photo, the masts are white, and you could mask them off, I suppose, but I find it's just as easy just to we'll need to be careful where we put those, because we'll need to make sure there is a corresponding reflection. Concentrate on what I'm doing, but obviously ideally you would paint the masts first, but I suppose it doesn't really matter. They're all in the right place, because I haven't actually painted any boats really. Just suggesting that the boats are there, that we've got these masts coming out of the water here. What else could it be? Again, you know, it's just enough information to suggest what is there. And you know, I can just pick out a few bits of detail, which could be the boats in the water there. Colour, red boats. Opportunity to put some colour in the painting as well. Odd blue sail, maybe. Give it a blue boat. Mistake. That's going to need a reflection there as well, because we could use just a bit of white gouache, or maybe go overboard with that. Probably just need a couple of boats at the front here that look like boats, and the rest will just fall into place. Boats here, so still needs connection, and just let all this just fade off into the distance there. So careful, because it just really doesn't take a lot for it to be overcooked. Maybe do with a sharper edge along there. Something there. Any little blobs of paint flicked up onto the sky. It's an ideal opportunity to disguise them. Don't need too many. I've got some white straight from the tube. And I think I could just do with picking out a few. Here are these. There was that boat off in the distance. Just suggest it. There's all sorts of things. Just catching the light in the distance there. A bit less of that one, because it's too similar to that otherwise. So I think I'd quite like to put a washing on the bottom. I think that would work quite well. Shimmer there or something. Paper is dry, so probably purple. It's be in harmony with the sky, sort of bluey purple, I think, for this wash here. I need to mix enough to do the job. To wet this area here without disturbing the paint too much, and then paint up into there. And then leave it alone. Fancy putting some red in, so I'm going to go for a bit of red on that. Maybe just a little bit of red on that boat there. In there. Maybe one of those shop fronts. Nice to have a bit of colour. So we'll take the tape off and then have a look to see whether we managed to get those elements that we talked about into the scene. So composition wise, quite happy with that, we've got the lead in here with the light on the water, and you know, we've kind of got these two strong structures that keeps our focus here where the light is. Colour harmony, that I feel it's got a harmonious sort of golden hour feel to it, so happy with that. Contrast, we've got the lightest light against the darkest dark, and got light and dark all through the painting here. That gives it sort of life, I think. Connection, which is my major thing I look for in a watercolor. We've got all this soft sky here that connects up through here, which connects to here, and you can see these buildings, they're all painted as one shape, which is why I needed to keep it wet. I kept spraying it to keep the area wet, because you know, if I ended up with a building here, a building here, and a building here, it just wouldn't have a wholeness to it. And edges, again, incredibly important. We've got soft edges in here, lots of softness throughout the painting, but we've got hard edges, which does give it sort of structure. So overall, pleased with the painting. It's come out well. But let me know in the comments what you think. If you decide to give it a go yourself, good luck. If you are working on a large piece of paper like this, you do need to have big brushes. That would be definitely the advice, but try and come up with a plan. Okay, I'll see you on the next video.